Hey there, I'm Hazel O'Gorman. This is my presentation on She-Ra and the Princesses of Power, the 2018 version, and how it represents the 12 stages of the hero's journey. Um, I guess it's best to just get into this. Uh, Let us begin with the first step, the ordinary world. We follow the protagonist, Adora, um, who has been born and raised in an area known as the Fright Zone for her entire life. She hasn't really known anything outside of this area, and the entire time she's lived under the control of the Horde, known also as the Evil Horde, who are very evidently quite good guys, as you can tell by their name. She's being taught by a leader of the Horde's army named Shadow Weaver to be a big captain, along with her friend Katra. She's sneaking out with Katra at some point and stumbles upon a mysterious sword in the forest. This sword basically just calls to her directly. And whenever she comes into contact with it, she transforms into She-Ra because it turns out she's the chosen special awesome guy. And initially, this then goes to the refusal of the call. And of course, this was the call to adventure. I failed to describe that. She refuses the call because, of course, She-Ra is a princess of power, and the evil horde very much hates the princess, as they're engaged in a war specifically against the Princess Alliance. She-Ra has been dormant for some very long period of time, and was basically thought to be gone. Of course, she does not want to go and be She-Ra because, one, she hates princesses. Two, that then means that she would have to leave the Horde because the Horde hates princesses, and that means leaving Katra, and that means leaving Shadow Weaver, and that means a bunch of stuff that she doesn't quite want to do. However, she goes home and she's not really. She doesn't like being part of the Horde anymore because she knows that they're bad guys. Being She-Ra for that brief amount of time, she was able to understand that the Horde is pretty evil. The evil Horde is indeed an evil Horde. And she then goes on to basically investigate to do more to figure out what she can do to be She-Ra more correctly. And she, along the way, meets a couple of friends named Glimmer and Bow. Now, their exact role is unnecessary until a later part of this video, but they help guide her along her path to figuring out how to live in the not Horde world, while there is a. Her sword guides her to a place known as the Crystal Castle, where a hologram AI named Lighthope teaches her how to be She-Ra correctly. Call either of these meeting the mentor if you want, because you can think of it as like the mentor for being a good person, or the mentor for being the person that has to save the world. And then we move on to crossing the threshold whenever she does, of course, choose to be She-Ra. This is pretty straightforward. She just goes up to the queen of a kingdom called Plumeria and is just like, hello, I would like to work for you and be a princess and fight the Horde. This then comes to tests, allies, and enemies. This is pretty much just the whole rest of the show, or at least half of the show, easily. She fights the Horde a lot. A bunch of stuff happens. Some of her friends get captured, etc. However, it is discovered over the course of these tests that there is kind of something wrong with her sword and with Lighthope and with all of that stuff. Because as we're approaching that innermost cave on step 7, we're coming to realize that She-Ra is in fact basically being used as a tool to activate a super weapon. The details of it are long and interesting, but not something that are really relevant for this video. Basically, She-Ra comes from a long line of really smart magic ancient people that made her sword so that they could harness the magic of the planet to blow a bunch of shit up. She doesn't want to do this because that involves blowing stuff up. Next, we come to the ordeal, which basically is when she kind of has to realize she has to not activate it. She's able to stop the sword and its super weapon from activating in the ordeal. However, it is directly after this, and it is also kind of in tandem with this, that the Horde is able to take her sword and is basically going to use it to make a portal that'll help them basically conquer the whole planet. She's able to break the sword, stopping this from happening, but she then loses her powers, and the portal was made anyway, so in the end it was kind of pointless. It wasn't pointless, but it didn't stop everything. Now, of course, usually finishing off the ordeal comes with some sort of reward, which would be the next step. However, in fact, her sword was destroyed, which is bad, because that's kind of where she gets all of her power from. However, this kind of subverts the normal structure of it, because this punishment is kind of in a way a good thing, as it allows for her to sort of start realizing that she doesn't need to be She-Ra necessarily. She's not necessarily a weapon anymore. She's able to start developing as a person, and this eventually does allow her to come more in tune with herself and her innate powers, and will later allow her to transform into She-Ra at will. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. First, we must begin the road back, which basically consists of escaping from the clutches of the full armies of the Horde, which have now been summoned by that giant portal, which she's eventually able to do. The specifics are kind of unimportant. I'm already quite over time for this. Let's move on to the resurrection. After her final battle against Horde Prime, who's basically like super Hordak, she's able to realize that she has the power of friendship and rainbows and happiness, and she's able to transform into She-Ra at will. And then she returns with the elixir by returning home with the world saved, and she's friends with Catra again after everything. I apologize for that going quite over time. Let's move on to the next section. The question I will particularly be answering is explain how the film or television show portrays the values of the group over the values of the individual, and the show does a very good job at doing this. In fact, most of the character conflict does have something to do with this. It's primarily seen through Adora. Initially, of course, she did not want to be She-Ra, but she knew that it was the right thing to do for the whole of Etheria, so she decided to join the Resistance and stop being a member of the Horde. Throughout the show, she struggles with whether or not she wants to be She-Ra, whether she can be She-Ra correctly, whether she even knows what being She-Ra means, what she needs to actually accomplish. She's kept in the dark about a lot of things, and things are very hard for her, and as a result, she struggles to continue being this great, awesome hero, even though it's necessary for the function of the whole of the society around her. And over time, she even starts to sort of overcorrect and starts over-prioritizing her role as She-Ra over her basic, needs as a person. Another character that exemplifies this conflict very well is Princess Glimmer, who eventually becomes Queen Glimmer when her mom dies. Having these new duties as the queen, she has to manage the entire kingdom of Plumeria while her mother has just died. This is very difficult for her initially at first. This is very difficult for her initially, as her mom just died. But she has to go be the queen for this whole kingdom, or the whole kingdom is going to be in lots of disarray and whatnot. But more poignantly, I feel, because of course that is going to happen for just about every royal figure at first. Oh no, my mother is dead. Now I must mourn. My father is dead. Oh, woe is me, is pretty typical. However, Glimmer is also very rambunctious and loves to go on adventures with the rest of the team that Adora has assembled. And having to do a bunch of bureaucratic nonsense rather irks her, especially as her friends keep repeatedly getting put into dangerous situations where she could be helping them. This creates a bit more intrigue to the situation because it's not only putting the values of the group of the whole kingdom of Plumeria against the values of her, it's also putting the values of the whole kingdom of Plumeria with her group of friends, like the whole princess resistance, whatever, as well as her interests. It also is worth mentioning there is a character named Perfuma whose powers are literally, well, her powers typically mainly consist of developing plant growth, but repeatedly throughout the show she showcases the ability to amplify the powers of her friends through the power of teamwork as they work together and, again, work more as a group than as individuals. They are able to do more. Overall, it is portraying the values of the group or the values of the individual, I guess, by showing that they're important, but also care about yourself. But also friendship and teamwork are awesome. And yay! And it's a children's cartoon, what do you expect? Anyhow, I'm gonna go edit this. Thank you very much for watching. Have an excellent day.